Let's go over Sadiq Khan exposed by London grooming gang files.
Was alone and unsafe in a house with three
So
men.
apparently we got
need a report
they have a bunch of
to know
victim
that that's
counts.
wrong.
A 15-year-old girl coerced to go to a hotel,
And they have
100% for me.
I
For me,
guess
that is
this,
unambiguous.
given drugs and alcohol made to carry out
doctor
sexual acts
or-
on men.
That is the pattern that I have seen in grooming gangs.
15-year-old girl
The Met is the last bastion of being able to cover it up.
told officers she'd been raped by numerous men.
These kind of gangs and this kind of child abuse exists throughout this country.
Oh,
and it
a
has done
whistleblower.
for decades.
A 17-year-old
a former
girl raped
detective. There we
by
go.
a number of men.
I want to see somebody in a high place held criminally responsible.
So this is the grooming gangs that are going on in London land or UK
Hey
land.
Maggie, thanks for coming down. Could you start off by introducing yourself and giving us a kind of brief overview of the work you've done?
My name's Maggie Oliver. I was a former police officer with Greater Manchester Police, and I resigned in 2012 because I was outraged at the what I consider
So
gross
she
criminal
resigned
neglect
at
in dealing
2012,
with, child abuse
and she's
on an
always
industrial
had
scale.
this issue with.
I've spoken
right,
out since then, done a lot of media,
these
and in
people.
2019 started my own charity, the Maggie Oliver Foundation, where we support adult survivors and victims of any
So
kind
it's
of
been
sexual
over
abuse,
a decade.
but also victims of grooming gangs. I now consider myself an expert in this field. It's consumed 20 years of my life, and we still have a long, long way to go.
Okay, so what we want to speak to you about is Mayor of London Sadiq Khan and the Metropolitan Police, specifically their denial of grooming gangs existing like Rochdale and Rotherham in London. They've said to me many times that this problem doesn't exist when I've asked them questions about it. But I think there's one quote from Sadiq Khan that really sums it up, which is, there are no reported cases and also no indication of these types of grooming gangs in London.
Maggie, what do you think of that statement?
I think it's nonsense. These kind of gangs and this kind of child abuse exists throughout this country, and it has done for decades. So what I've seen
So she-
in the past
so
20 years
she
is what
even-
I call
who's
willful
a-
blindness. So trying to turn away from this kind of
Basically,
crime,
she was
trying
someone
to
who
cover
was
up that it exists.
who knows
and
some
the Met
information,
have been able to wriggle out of certain things, but
right. Former
perhaps they should
detective.
ask some of the victims and
She
survivors
used to
of
work
these
with these
gangs in London
guys at some
whether
point.
they believe that their lives have been destroyed or tarnished by their abuse by gangs of men in and around London. It happens, and I think that Sadiq Khan saying this isn't helpful, and I think the Met are behind the rest of the country. I think the rest of the country accepts and has acknowledged that we have a problem. We've seen big cases in many towns and cities now. I don't know how the Met have managed to wriggle out of this, but I do think that the day is coming.
So we've actually compiled evidence from the Met that appears to contradict what the Mayor said, but we need an opinion from you, an expert, to assess, is this really the case? So now I'm going to read some details from a case that was reported this year. Victim 1, a 15-year-old girl had been missing for 4 days. Her mother called the police when she received information about where her daughter was. The mother and the police found the girl with a 21-year-old man. The girl told officers she'd been raped by numerous men. An officer recorded the conversation on their body-worn video. Officers arrested the man and seized some items for forensic examination. The victim declined to take part in a video interview but gave her phone to the police to check for evidence. After 7 weeks,
So
she
this
didn't want her
is
phone back.
the
force hadn't
first
examined it
victim,
and closed the case.
or at
The
least
force
one
didn't examine
victim
the
that
suspect's clothing or
was,
his phone. They made no effort to identify
brought to
the
light.
other men involved and didn't follow up on other evidence found at the scene. And that's our first example. If that case came across your desk, would you suspect that that was a grooming gang?
I wouldn't speculate, but that is a totally inadequate investigation. You know, they have made a judgment at the start that this case isn't worth investigating. They should have analysed the phone. If the victim had declined to take part in a video interview, that doesn't mean that you don't look at other lines of inquiry. 7 weeks she wanted her phone back. The force hadn't examined it and closed the case. For me, that is either laziness, incompetence, inexperience, or more sinister. From what is on that, there is insufficient there for me to decide whether that is a grooming gang or not.
Could you say was there an indication there though?
From you can't assume. As a police officer, I always say, when I've been highly critical of the way cases have been handled, that you follow the evidence. So I can't say from that. We've got hearsay on that, if I'm honest, that the mother had found her daughter with a 20-year-old man. The girl told the officers she'd been raped by numerous men, but you have to investigate and you have to follow the evidence. So I think that there are definitely questions to be answered. If she's been raped by multiple men, are they a grooming gang or not? As it, you know, a one-off occasion. I consider a grooming gang, you know, you've got the grooming aspect, you've got the coercion, you've got the fear, you've got the threats. That case study there is insufficient for me to give an opinion, really. That's what I would say.
I'll go to victim 2, also from this year. A 13-year-old girl was known to be at high risk of sexual exploitation. The force had regularly updated a 588 report. It contained details of adults who posed a risk to her and recorded that the force had served child abduction warning notices on them. When she was reported missing, the force carried out extensive inquiries. Those inquiries led officers to identify 2 men suspected of sexually exploiting her. Now, there's just 2 men that are mentioned. Like, could we view that as potentially an indication of a grooming gang? Like, what's your experience there?
I mean, I read that and that has got red flags in there for me. The first and one of the most well-known or the most obvious red flag is that she is reported missing. And that is one of the danger signs. You know, you get 1 missing from home and then that becomes 2 and 10 and 20. For me, that is one of the key factors in identifying a child who is at risk and being sexually abused. The thing that jumps out at me with that is that the force has served child abduction warnings. I've never seen those as adequate. I see that as I see those as inadequate because that child is 13 years old. A child abduction warning suggests that those men are suspected of doing, of being responsible for putting that child at risk, for sexually abusing. I would want to see a lot more inquiries around that. Now, it doesn't go far enough, but for me, that would suggest that the force know a lot more than is in that paragraph. And with my background, having seen exactly that happen on Operation Augusta, I see that often as a way of avoiding investigating what should be the subject of a much more thorough investigation. So that would raise questions for me.
Okay. This is a case from 2024. Victim 3, a social worker reported that someone coerced a 15-year-old girl to go to a hotel. There she was given drugs and alcohol and made to carry out sexual acts on men. Investigators attended a strategy meeting with the force's safeguarding partners. They agreed that an officer and a social worker should visit the girl the next day. They also agreed that the force should serve a child abduction warning notice on one of the suspects. The investigator didn't record a reason why the suspect shouldn't be arrested. The girl told the social worker and the officer what had happened to her. She provided several lines of inquiry. The force also received intelligence that the same people were exploiting other children. That sounds a lot like the cases that you've uncovered. Do the details in there suggest the girl is a victim of a London grooming gang?
100% for me. For me, that is unambiguous. You know, you've got a social worker there that's reporting this risk to this child. Drugs and alcohol, carrying out sexual acts on men. They're holding a strategy meeting, so that shows me that there are already concerns around that child. A child abduction warning, as I've just said before, I see that as an avoidance of doing a full investigation. You know, the cases I've worked on, particularly Augusta, where the official findings were that that case was closed down because Greater Manchester Police would not put resources in. I see serving a child abduction warning as an avoidance of doing a proper job. That suspect should have been arrested completely because the girl is cooperating. She's telling the authorities what has happened to her. She's given several lines of inquiries. They've already got intelligence that these same people are exploiting other children. For me, that is unquestionably needs investigating. But from that small paragraph, I would say for me, that is the pattern that I have seen in grooming gangs.
Okay, I'm going to read a case from 2017 next. This is with victim 4. A 17-year-old girl reported to the force that she had been raped by a number of men after they had given her alcohol. Specialist officers were allocated to both the rape and the child sexual exploitation elements of the investigation. However, there was no strategy meeting in relation to either. So if you were the investigating officer on this case, how would you have dealt with it?
I don't understand why there's no strategy meeting. I think the fact that specialist officers have been allocated, I don't think there's sufficient information in that to make a categorical decision on whether that is a grooming gang. You know, she's saying that she's been raped by a number of men after they've given her alcohol. That alone doesn't suggest a grooming gang. I think what I would take as a positive from that, if I'm honest, is that this girl is 17, and I have often seen cases where 16 is seen as a cut-off point for protecting children, when the law says that you are a child until the age of 18. So I can't say from that paragraph whether there is a grooming gang operating. I would say that it needs further investigation.
Okay. This case came to light shortly after Sadiq Khan became mayor in 2016. Victim 5. A 16-year-old girl made an initial report to another police force that she had been raped on numerous occasions over a 3-year period by a group of men in London. If she refused to meet the men, threats would be made that they would hurt her and her family. Maggie, is that a grooming gang?
For me, from that information, I would suggest yes. It flags up a few things there, that she's made an initial report to another police force. So from all my work, I do know that police forces don't speak to each other. This is a big part of what's wrong, really. So that police force that she has made that report to will probably recorded that on their own intelligence system. That may not have been passed on to London. But the threats, the coercion, threats towards her family, that is typical of a grooming gang. Often a child is drawn in, and by the time they realise what's going on, they're too deep in, and the alcohol is used. The fear and the shame becomes a real factor in them, continuing to be abused by the gang. So for me, that case would suggest for me a grooming gang are operating, and she won't be the only child.
Okay, this case is from also from 2016. Victim 6, a 13-year-old girl at risk of child sexual exploitation who went missing overnight, was assessed as being medium risk because she was described as being streetwise. Separately from the missing incident, Communications Centre had received another report that the child was alone and unsafe in a house with 3 men. This information had been in the email inbox of the Met Police for 14 hours before the force acted on it. This additional information, when the force did act on it, resulted in the risk level being raised to high. The child was found, but in an effort to safeguard her, rather than taking her into police protection, officers arrested her for a minor assault on her mother. At the time of the case audit, the Met Police had not formally interviewed the 3 men she was with while she was missing, which meant potentially they still posed a risk. That pattern sounds familiar. Is the Met's reaction similar to the type of thing that you've witnessed in police forces?
That case is textbook that I see. You know, a child of 13 at risk of CSE. She's gone missing. She's very young and vulnerable. The use of the word as being streetwise, you know, immediately that child is being judged. A 13-year-old child is a victim of abuse. She needs protecting. The authorities must step in. And it's corroborated by another report that the child was alone and unsafe in a house with 3 men. 14 hours in an inbox, you know, waiting for an allocation of an officer isn't good enough. I know that you need to act early in these cases to prevent further abuse of that child. And if you intervene early enough, you can prevent a lot that comes after it. But delays are not, they're just not acceptable with a 13-year-old child. The other thing that is very familiar to me is the child being arrested. Again, you know, that will alienate that child. You know, she's 13 years old. She will come out of that incident not trusting the police, not feeling that she can confide in them, feeling that she's done something wrong,
and there are
when actually
instances
she
people
is probably
distrusting the law
terrified.
enforcement.
She needs somebody to take her into a place of safety, not to focus on a minor assault on a mum. You know, the men not interviewed, you know, I see it all the time, long delays, inadequate action to protect the child, the victim becoming an easy target so that they can get rid of what probably is the entry into that grooming gang. And if that child was dealt with properly from the very moment she had interactions with the police, she could open up that whole network and prevent abuse of many other children. But by acting in the way that those officers have right at the first hurdle, the likelihood is that child will then not cooperate with the police, and all the other children that gang are abusing will be left until another child is in that position. It takes a long time sometimes to gain the trust of these children because they are already frightened. And if you're going to lock them up the first time you meet them, you're going to push that child away. So for me, that case is most definitely a grooming gang victim.
Okay, you might be wondering where we've got these case studies from and why we'd expect the Mayor of London to know about them. Well, they're actually from inspectorate reports that Sadiq Khan has directly responded to. So victims 1 and 2, that's from a February 2025 report. Victim 3, 2024. Victim 4, December 2017. And victims 5 and 6 from May 2016.
Now we know that the Mayor has read them because he's actually reacted to them publicly. So this one he said the Met needs to raise standards. This report he said significant improvements needed. This one simply not good enough. And this one he told the Guardian newspaper it was deeply troubling.
That's this one. And I mean there will be a lot more than this. You see, what always makes me really angry is that I don't need a report to know that that's wrong. And you get a report, it's too late for that child. It was only in 2020 that we got the first report into Augusta,
Correct.
which
I
had
mean,
been in
they
Manchester in
should have stopped it
2005.
immediately. No,
For all those 15
they-
years,
they waited too
Greater
long.
Manchester Police had insisted that there was insufficient evidence to investigate 97 abusers that we had identified. They've been forced to reopen that case. We're
Not
20
only
years
did
on,
they wait
21
too
years on
long,
now.
but they let it happen.
It's too late for those children. But this is the same pattern that I've seen. And a report without action means nothing. It's too late for that child. The grooming gang will have taken confidence from the fact that even when a child speaks out, there hasn't been action. But for Sadiq Khan, reading these, and probably, I'm sure there are many, many more, to insist that they don't have a problem in London, for me that is, it's unbelievable, really. I don't know how they have been able to avoid handling these cases for so long.
Does it shock you that this is hiding in plain sight?
You know what, Zach, it doesn't shock me. You know,
getting paid
it took me...
big buck.
It was almost 10 years after I resigned from the police that finally something was taken seriously. So many doors were slammed in my face, and I don't believe that... When I first started to see what was going on, I was very naive and believed that those at the top didn't know. The more I've gone down this road, the more I came to realise that everybody at the top 100% knew and wanted to cover it up. I think the Met is the last bastion of being able to cover it up, because I have no doubt from the work we do, from what I've read here, that there is a similar pattern of abusing in the Met. I've seen it in Thames Valley, in Oxford, and I don't know how they've managed to cover it up for so long, but it doesn't surprise me. Fighting to expose what was going on throughout the country was a long haul. We need to focus on the Met that we've had on other towns and cities, and up to now that hasn't happened, but it's coming. It is coming.
I mean, like that one, so you said that was like pretty much 100% a grooming gang.
Yeah.
That's from February 2024.
I know. You know, people know me from the Rochdale case, which was 2012, the trial. But the Maggie Oliver Foundation, we are dealing with cases today. So I know these are not problems of the past. That's one of the things that I find really shocking. When chief constables and senior public officials like Sadiq Khan will insist that these things are problems of the past.
Oh yeah.
Because
Problems
they're not.
of the past.
And
Yeah.
some of the programmes that have been
Like,
on telly recently will show that they're not problems of the past.
Allah Akbar.
In the
I
foundation, we
am
are supporting and
protecting
fighting
our
alongside victims today
civilian
who are
population
suffering the same
by allowing
turning
these
away
people
as that case you've just read
groom
to
your
me.
children.
So that's where we come in and fight their corner. And we do have a lot of success. Sometimes it's the officer who isn't handling it properly. But when we take it to a senior officer who then will either pick it up or not, we will see it right through to the end. But I'm not surprised that we never seem to... We'll get an inquiry or a report.
These people sweep it under the fucking rug.
There are
That's for
causes
sure.
for concern. It says that on the front of that document. What's done with those
They even
causes for concern?
falsify the report
There's
a
a lot
little
of
bit, too.
questions that this raises, which I don't have the answers to. But, you know, one is a mistake, two, unfortunate, but when you go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and probably there's many more that you haven't seen.
Oh yeah, many more.
I find...
Right, and these are just the seven,
Khan's,
right? These are just the
insistence
7
that they don't have a
victims they
problem
brought
in
up
London is completely...
that had accounts.
He's gone further though, because he's saying there's no indication. So obviously when we...
What about the other people that haven't come forward
not
yet?
all of them you can say 100%, but on his basis that like even the cases that you wouldn't say were grooming gangs, it's still by his threshold of there being an indication? Is that still like is that false? Like how do we view that?
I mean, you're showing here some cases where I don't know why they've been investigated. There's a lot of questions I haven't got answers to, but I would assume that these have been looked at because there has been some form of a complaint. Most victims, most families will not complain. They will not be scrutinised as to why
since they filed a
this
report,
case wasn't taken
so
forward.
it must
You
have been
need to
looked
want to take these forward in order to get to the bottom of it. This suggests that they don't want to get to the bottom of it, and that isn't news to me. But these will be a tiny
there have been
snapshot of what is going on throughout.
Also, in the
Met.
past,
I
they've
don't
said
doubt it
that
for
some
one
of the
single
police officers have
Why do you
been
think they're digging their heels in
corrupt
this?
and complicit in allowing some of this stuff to
Why
happen.
did any police force
They themselves are also doing
not
some of the grooming,
follow
apparently.
the evidence?
And they had
I
to
spent
clean
20
house
years,
on some
trying to
police departments.
expose what I saw going on in 2005.
But what
I
if some
still
police departments
find it
are in
incredible
on it,
that as a
sweeping
country,
shit under the rug or
a civilized country,
falsifying
that we can
evidence or
turn away
destroying
from
evidence?
the most vulnerable children who need the police and the authorities to act. We didn't. We didn't. So when you ask me why, I think it's a combination of things. I think it's a judgment of the children, which you've seen in some of those examples you've just shown me.
Yeah, these people are
that they don't
juveniles
matter.
too.
That they come often from difficult backgrounds where nobody is going to make a lot of noise.
All
even
this
if they
stuff
do,
will
they'll
be
be written
hidden.
as one of those
because
things,
they're
streetwise,
juveniles.
making a
Well,
lifestyle
especially,
choice.
I don't
They
know how
don't matter.
UK land does it.
I often say,
But
if
if it was
Boris
in
Johnson's
America,
child,
this
or Keir Starmer's daughter,
you wouldn't
would
hear,
they
you
have
wouldn't be
said
able to
that child that you've just
hear a
shown
lot
me,
of this stuff because it'd be
13 years
juvenile
old,
court stuff.
found in a
and
house, 14-year
it'd be
delay,
under
14-hour
seal.
delay in responding, and no investigation,
young
locking the
people.
child up. Would they have done that to Keir Starmer's daughter?
I mean, there have been
And I would say
instances
no.
of
So
some of these
they
guys
turn
being
away
tried as adults
because
because of the
these children don't
just the
matter.
heinous action
They are
did.
judged.
That's
They don't want to put resources in
still few and
because
far
these
between.
cases are very complex, and they take very experienced detectives to get to the bottom of them, because the grooming gangs have been allowed to operate for decades. They know exactly how to avoid detection.
She said it.
They
They've been
use
allowed to
different names,
operate
they
for
use street
decades.
names. They, take one child
Also,
at
there's
a
some
time,
places
so there
in
are no
UK
independent
land
witnesses.
where it's
They
like,
are very skilled.
hey,
So I don't underplay the fact that these cases are really complex
sexual
and they need real
intercourse in the
commitment
public
to
place.
investigate.
What the fuck?
So if they can push
People
a
actually
child
do
away
do
and
this?
avoid that prosecution and that investigation, it saves a lot of money.
Do
I think money
some private
underpins a lot of it.
fornication out in
The
public.
judgment of the children,
That's public
pretend that everything's
indecency.
okay, and it's very hard to get to the evidence. It really is difficult, because you will go for a SARS request or you will ask for Freedom of Information Act. You won't find the evidence there because they don't record the data.
Yeah.
We still don't record the data about
Oh
the
yeah,
ethnicity
in
or
UK
the
land they don't have
religion or
police body
the
cams.
background of sex
But in
offenders.
America they do.
I think we absolutely must. And even Louis Case's report, this is something I wrote to the Home Office in 2013
Yeah, in
about,
UK land
but
they're
we still
not
haven't
like
rectified it. You've got to ask why.
they don't have
so there
that
are a lot of
issue
reasons that
like
run
they
through
do
these.
in,
A lot of questions.
USA
I think
land.
I know what the answers are, but to find those answers officially, you'll struggle, because there's been smoke and mirrors around it, which is still there. I don't know if that helps.
Yeah, I mean, so you like in your experience, you talked about willful blindness. Sadiq Khan, he reads this one, he says things need to change. By the time he's reading this one, he says that he finds this report reassuring.
We
Is
will
what
be
he's
looking
doing, and then
into
he's
it.
saying on top of that,
We
there are no
will be
indication and no
fighting
reports
back
of grooming
against
gangs.
illegal
Is that willful
immigration.
blindness? Is it worse than that? Is that a
We
misrepresentation
will
of the
fight
truth?
back on the illegal aliens.
I want to see
Allah Akbar.
somebody
Yes,
in a
only do
high
very-
place held criminally responsible for gross neglect of duty. And I'm actually quite separately from from the charity. I'm involved in an Action for Accountability Limited, where we've pulled together a limited company, a team of lawyers and barristers
So she's
who are
a
looking for
outspoken person,
a case that we
basically
can
an
take
advocate,
forward, probably in a
seeing
private
as
prosecution,
she's
because
an ex-detective.
what
that
I believe,
basically quit her job
I
because
think what I
she
would say,
hated
I mean, I have to
the
root
system
it in the
at
police
which
because that's my background.
she was part of.
But you could actually include social services, you know, CPS, you could include all the authorities, the courts. When you become a police officer, every police officer swears what's called an oath of attestation, where you promise to uphold the law, that you promise to act with integrity, with impartiality, to protect,
So basically,
uphold fundamental human rights.
Okay, so it's basically like it's basically what the police, right? It's basically what U.S. police, right? In the U.S., I think the police force does the same thing, right? You basically take an oath, right? Just like politicians when they take an oath.
We all promised to do that. What I have seen in the past 15 years of my fight has
And even
been
then, people still
that the higher
fucking
up
waffle
the
it.
chain an officer
They fucking
gets,
perjure
I
themselves
firmly
and
believe
shit.
that they are tested as to whether they can
Why
put
the
the
fuck you
welfare
lying?
and the protecting the reputation of the organisation above their duty to protect children. And I don't think they get to the top of these organisations without proving that they can do that. So what I see here when I hear Sadiq Khan, or I hear the head of the Met, or I hear Chief Constables saying we don't have a problem.
We don't have.
They know that their duty,
we don't have a problem when
as
you
a
have
chief
a bunch of
constable,
victims coming out and being like, "Yeah, we have
police
a
and crime
problem."
commissioner, is to protect the organisation.
Or you have those.
And unfortunately, they are allowed to do that. There's very
compound full of
powerful,
illegal aliens
PR
that you guys bust
departments
over
in the
for
police in all these organisations.
some reason.
For
and
me,
are, giving your taxpayer money to
they are
them
guilty
for free.
of turning away from these children,
So that they can
and unfortunately, for
fuck up your
decades
own
they've got away with
fucking
it. I think we need to
country
see accountability,
or city,
and then I do
wherever
think
they're
we'll see
fucking
change.
around.
We have to base that in the
I mean,
evidence
there's
and
probably
in the
some of them
facts,
who've
but
integrated
in 3 of those
properly
cases,
and
there are real serious
who
concerns for
don't
me.
cause problems. But at
There
the
will be
same
many
time,
more
you
cases
brought
like
over
that.
a bunch of fucking crazies too.
You know,
who
I
don't
really,
follow
without
your
more
goddamn
information,
fucking rules.
I can only comment on what you've given me.
Spokesperson for the Met Police said we understand the real concern public around have so-called grooming gangs and treat all allegations of sexual offenses and exploitation extremely seriously. Yeah, sure. Our data shows the group-based child sexual abuse and exploitation pictures in London, or CSAM, is more varied than in other parts of the country and does not neatly align with patterns of methodology, ethnicity, or nationality seen elsewhere, reported on extensively. We are utterly committed to protecting vulnerable children and bringing those responsible to justice. There is still much work to be done, including encouraging reporting of offenses, so we have the fullest possible picture. But we have made significant improvements in the past decade to enable us to do that effectively. Then why do you have a bunch of people speaking out and being like, hey, we got fucking issues. Would you fucking help? Also, they were apparently jailing the parents of the victims too at some point. Like, like some of the victims' parents were getting into fights with some of these fucking grooming gang motherfuckers, but then the police were instead helping them, helping the grooming gangs. Like, what? You're not helping the victim, but you're helping the victim get fucked up? Like, what the fuck? Fucking wild. Oh, maybe we should read this, sorry. I kind of just glossed it over. Spokesperson mayor of London said, the mayor has always been clear that the safety of Londoners is his top priority. That sounds fucking fake as hell. Priority, and nowhere is this truer than the safeguarding children. Man, they're using the children as a shield. Well, actually, Sadiq is using the whole children as a shield, but he can't even protect his own fucking citizenry. Is committed to doing all he can to protect children in London from organized criminal and sexual exploitation and bring perpetrators to justice. Yeah, right. When you're importing a bunch of illegal aliens that fucking do exploitation of minors and fucking women and shit like that, yeah, I don't know, man. That's a hard fucking cookie to swallow. This includes his 15.6 million violence and exploitation support service, which provides specialist support to young Londoners who are valuable, caught up and are being exploited by criminal gangs in capital, as well as supporting the Met to deliver a new child. First approach to safeguarding and enforcement action to tackle county lines. It just sounds like fucking Sadiq Khan is just doing fucking human trafficking at this point. Christ. We remain vigilant to emerging and changing threats and will continue to do everything we can to protect children in the capital from abuse, violence, and exploitation in all its forms. Yeah, they tried to even do the online ID, right? Like Australia and shit. Where they're trying to make every other country do it too. Fuck you. Anyways, there you have it. That is the Daily Express on Sadiq Khan being a complete fucking shitbag. If you want to check it out, I'll leave it in the description so you can reference it. They also have tags and everything, so you can check it out. There you have it.